I would say that they're more surprises because they have beginnings, middles, and ends. They're not like, it's not just like a, hey, there's the person and we move on. It's they're there for a reason.
Picture this headline flashing across your screen. Ryan Reynolds ousted from Wrexham ownership. It hits you like a rogue shot in Injury Time. Utterly unexpected and jarring for anyone even vaguely aware of the Wrexham fairy tale. The Hollywood star who swept in to save a struggling Welsh football club, the heartwarming documentary series, the global fan base that exploded seemingly overnight. This news was not just surprising, it was genuinely shocking. Ryan Reynolds, the charismatic, quick-witted actor who, alongside Rob McElhenney, had become synonymous with Wrexham's improbable rise, was suddenly, dramatically on the outs, gone, removed, and the whispers surrounding his abrupt departure were even more sensational than the initial news itself. Rumors, laced with intrigue and tinged with scandal, pointed towards a culprit no one would have anticipated, his own wife, Blake Lively. How could a partnership celebrated for its authenticity and charm devolve into such a messy public implosion? What sequence of events could possibly explain this unbelievable fall from grace? The answers as they began to trickle out painted a picture far more intricate and unsettling than any Hollywood scriptwriter could have conceived.
Well, that is also accurate and weirdly high praise as well. It was just one of those. It felt like a live-action Pixar movie. It was something that, I wanted to do something where nobody was being stabbed in the face.
Yes.
There was almost no blood at all. I think I got a little paper cut on the movie. That was about it. And something that my kids can watch, but also as a parent, too, you want the parents need to get punched right in the heart as well.
To truly appreciate the seismic nature of this collapse, we must journey back to the genesis of the Wrexham phenomenon, to the audacious gamble that defied all conventional wisdom. Picture the initial pitch. Two celebrated comedic actors, more accustomed to red carpets than muddy football pitches, proposing to acquire a struggling, historically significant, yet currently languishing Welsh football club, buried deep in the non-league wilderness of English football's fifth tier. It sounded less like a sound investment strategy and more like a whimsical plotline from a mockumentary, utterly improbable, bordering on the absurd, and yet undeniably magnetically captivating. Initially met with a mixture of polite skepticism and outright disbelief, the concept rapidly morphed into a source of global fascination, a testament to the enduring allure of the underdog narrative and the irresistible magnetism of celebrity. This wasn't a cold, calculated corporate acquisition driven by profit margins and spreadsheets. It was something altogether different, something far more human and emotionally resonant. It was two globally recognized personalities investing not just substantial capital, but something far more valuable: genuine enthusiasm, infectious optimism, and a deeply affecting sense of hope into a community desperately yearning for a resurgence, for a reason to believe again. Ryan Reynolds, in particular, became the charismatic standard bearer of this improbable venture, embodying the dream in ways that transcended mere celebrity endorsement. He wasn't a remote, detached owner issuing pronouncements from a penthouse suite. He was demonstrably, palpably present. He immersed himself in the Wrexham experience, becoming a fixture in the stands, a vocal presence in the community, a passionate advocate for the club's revival. He was seen braving the notoriously unpredictable Welsh weather, scarf emblazoned with the Wrexham dragon wrapped around his neck, roaring alongside lifelong supporters, celebrating hard-fought goals with unrestrained elation, and commiserating over agonizing defeats with genuine empathy. His social media channels became a relentless, often hilarious stream of Wrexham boosterism, peppered with witty banter about the team's performance, heartfelt shoutouts to local businesses, and authentic interactions with fans who had initially greeted his arrival with cautious optimism, but were quickly won over by his apparent sincerity. Locals recounted anecdotes of chance encounters with Ryan in local pubs, his genuine interest in their stories, his willingness to learn about the club's rich history and the town's unique character. In an era increasingly characterized by distant transactional sports ownership, where clubs are often viewed as mere assets in vast portfolios, Ryan Reynolds presented a startlingly refreshing anomaly, an owner who appeared deeply, demonstrably emotionally invested, profoundly connected to the community, and authentically, unequivocally passionate about the beautiful game, and specifically about Wrexham AFC. For generations of Wrexham supporters who had endured decades of financial instability, near relegations, and crushing disappointments, it felt akin to a divine intervention, a Hollywood-infused miracle, an electrifying injection of optimism that breathed vibrant new life into their long-suffering, deeply beloved club.
And I'm really excited. But as I've gotten a little bit older, I sort of want to really, I'm lucky that I get to work in this industry, and particularly incredibly fortunate that I get to work in it this long. But I really want to work with people that are either immensely talented or people that I love and that I'm genuinely like best friends with. And unfortunately, Hugh does not qualify as either of those. But I am excited because I'm a Logan fan. So. And then, you know, that covers Will Ferrell as well. That's a guy that my entire life, I feel.
Yet, even as the Wrexham fairy tale continued to unfold on the hallowed turf of the racecourse ground and in the increasingly fervent global online forums, a contrasting, far less celebratory narrative was quietly, ominously taking shape within the glittering, often treacherous landscape of Hollywood. Ryan's personal life, inextricably intertwined with his equally iconic wife, Blake Lively, had always existed under the relentless glare of the public spotlight, a subject of perpetual media scrutiny and fervent fan interest. They were undeniably the power couple, consistently topping most admired lists, lauded not just for their individual professional achievements and dazzling star power, but for the seemingly genuine warmth and authenticity of their relationship, their playfully combative online exchanges, and the carefully cultivated image of a loving, grounded family unit they meticulously projected. Their marriage was frequently romanticized as an almost mythical oasis of normalcy and genuine affection amidst the often manufactured artifice and fleeting relationships of celebrity culture. Then the announcement arrived, heralded with significant industry fanfare. Blake Lively's ambitious new project, the cinematic adaptation of Colleen Hoover's phenomenally successful novel, It Ends With Us. The project aimed squarely at a vast pre-existing fan base and tapping into contemporary themes of complex relationships and emotional resilience, generated considerable pre-production buzz from its inception. Fans of the book, a massive and fiercely devoted demographic, erupted in collective excitement, eagerly anticipating a faithful, visually arresting, and emotionally impactful cinematic rendition of a story that had resonated deeply with millions. Blake not only assuming the coveted lead role, but also undertaking the significant creative responsibilities of co-writing and co-directing alongside Justin Baldoni, seemed poised to achieve a watershed moment in her already illustrious career, a project that promised both critical acclaim and significant box office success. But this film, initially envisioned as a triumphant showcase of her multifaceted talent and a resounding career highlight, would, in a cruel twist of fate, unknowingly morph into the unexpected catalyst for a devastating chain of events, a domino effect that would ultimately unravel Ryan's cherished Wrexham dream, casting a long, ominous shadow over their meticulously crafted public image and exposing a darker, far more turbulent undercurrent beneath the veneer of Hollywood perfection.
About a month ago, this really hit home with me too. About a month ago, I was sitting in traffic and I was just like jamming These Dreams by heart. I was killing it in the car. And there was just this busload of high school kids that were parked right beside me. I didn't even realize. I looked over and every one of their jaws were just on the ground, laughing their friggin' guts out at me.
The initial surge of celebratory anticipation surrounding It Ends With Us gradually, almost imperceptibly, began to dissipate, replaced by a disquieting, increasingly pervasive undercurrent of hushed rumor and anxious speculation. Whispers, initially faint and largely confined to the tightly guarded inner circles of Hollywood production sets, started to emanate from behind the heavily guarded closed doors of the film's principal photography, painting a decidedly less rosy picture of the on-set atmosphere, a portrayal starkly contrasting with the carefully curated public pronouncements of creative harmony and collaborative spirit. Accounts of persistent creative clashes, simmering personality conflicts between key players, and a palpable, pervasive sense of unease began to tentatively circulate within industry circles, initially through anonymous online forums and hushed conversations at industry events, gradually gaining traction and credibility as more sources corroborated similar accounts. The nucleus of these early rumors, the focal point of growing concern, quickly coalesced around the increasingly strained dynamic between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, the film's director and co-writer, the two individuals ostensibly at the helm of this highly anticipated project. Initial reports, often filtered through the notoriously unreliable yet perpetually fascinating Hollywood grapevine and amplified by the echo chambers of online gossip blogs, dialogues suggested that Baldoni, known for his more traditionally directed and perhaps less actor-driven approach, was perceived as exerting an undue level of creative control, potentially and perhaps unfairly marginalizing Blake's creative input, diminishing her agency in shaping the cinematic interpretation of the source material. The narrative, rapidly gaining traction within online fan communities and across social media platforms, quickly solidified into a readily digestible and emotionally charged trope. The talented, passionate female lead artistically stifled by a controlling, perhaps even patriarchal male director, a scenario deeply resonant with ongoing and vitally important discussions surrounding gender dynamics, creative control, and power imbalances within the historically male-dominated film industry. Sympathy, fueled by pre-existing societal narratives and amplified by online activism, began to coalesce rapidly and powerfully around Blake, painting her as the wronged party, the courageous actress valiantly fighting for her artistic vision and creative autonomy against a potentially overbearing and insensitive director. This initial, seemingly straightforward narrative, however, was destined for a dramatic and unexpected subversion, as contradictory information, far more complex and ethically challenging, began to percolate through the tightly controlled information ecosystem of Hollywood, hinting at a far more nuanced and ultimately far more troubling reality behind the carefully constructed public facade.
Yeah.
My relationship with my father, which was very complicated and difficult. My dad was a very, I come from a middle class, kind of blue collar home, and my dad was just of that generation where it's just like, he was Clint Eastwood, less is more. Simple grunts is how he communicated.
Okay, gotcha.
I think people tell themselves stories, and this sort of comes back to your worldview that you just mentioned about.
The prevailing narrative, seemingly cemented in the public consciousness and rapidly solidifying into accepted truth, underwent a seismic and utterly unexpected shift with the clandestine emergence of leaked text messages. These were not fleeting, context-stripped snippets of digital communication. They were reportedly extensive, meticulously documented exchanges, purportedly originating from within the It Ends With Us production team, circulating surreptitiously amongst a select, highly connected network of industry insiders, offering a dramatically, almost diametrically opposed perspective on the unfolding on-set dynamics and the motivations of key individuals involved. According to those who claim to have directly reviewed these leaked communications, the content suggested a far more intricate and ethically problematic scenario. Blake Lively, rather than being a victim of directorial overreach, might have been actively and strategically cultivating a narrative that positioned herself as the aggrieved party, potentially and deliberately at the expense of Justin Baldoni's professional reputation and the overall integrity of the film production. More disturbingly, and with potentially far-reaching consequences, certain messages allegedly contained explicit indications that Blake had not only considered, but actively contemplated leveraging the immense public platform and unparalleled influence of her husband, Ryan Reynolds, to strategically manipulate public opinion and media coverage in her favor. The implications embedded within these leaked texts were profoundly troubling, painting a portrait of calculated narrative control, strategic PR maneuvering operating far outside the bounds of typical Hollywood spin, and a deeply unsettling willingness to potentially weaponize celebrity influence to manage a personal image crisis and potentially damage the professional standing of others. The alleged strategy, as pieced together from these leaked fragments of digital discourse, appeared to hinge on a calculated exploitation of Ryan's almost universally positive public image, his vast social media reach, and the pre-existing reservoir of goodwill associated with his name and brand, suggesting a deliberate and ethically questionable attempt to harness his considerable public capital to generate a wave of manufactured sympathy for Blake, simultaneously casting Justin Baldoni, and perhaps even the film itself, in a negative, unfavorable light should it deviate from her meticulously crafted vision or fail to meet her exacting expectations. This sudden, jarring revelation irrevocably shifted the focus away from simplistic narratives of creative differences and artistic disagreements, plunging the unfolding drama into far murkier ethical waters, raising profound questions about the responsible use of celebrity power, the manipulation of public perception, and the potentially corrosive impact of personal agendas on collaborative creative endeavors within the high-stakes, intensely scrutinized world of Hollywood filmmaking.
I would say that they're more surprises because they have beginnings, middles, and ends. They're not like, it's not just like a, hey, there's the person and we move on. It's they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said it just earlier, but I wanted to go back on that. You think that this might be the greatest film that you've...
I mean, look, most of the time when the movie is this much fun to make, you
got bad.
As these deeply unsettling rumors and the potentially explosive leaked text messages continued to ripple outwards from the tightly controlled confines of Hollywood, their shockwaves inevitably reached the ears of key stakeholders and decision makers within Wrexham Football Club. Rob McElhenney, deeply and personally invested in the Wrexham project and having cultivated a genuine, seemingly robust friendship with Ryan Reynolds throughout their joint ownership tenure, found himself increasingly and uncomfortably positioned at the epicenter of a rapidly escalating crisis, caught in an agonizing crossfire of conflicting narratives and mounting pressure. He was, by all accounts, bombarded with disparate and often contradictory accounts from various sources, whispers and veiled concerns emanating from Justin Baldoni's camp, expressing profound frustration at feeling unfairly targeted and misrepresented in the burgeoning public discourse, juxtaposed against carefully curated narratives originating from Blake Lively's representatives, steadfastly maintaining that she was merely acting as a passionate advocate for her creative vision, valiantly standing up for herself and her artistic principles within a demonstrably challenging and potentially adversarial production environment. Initially, Rob understandably and perhaps strategically demonstrated a marked reluctance to directly embroil himself in what appeared to be a deeply personal, intensely volatile, and potentially litigious dispute unfolding within the Reynolds Lively household, a situation seemingly far removed from the day-to-day operations and core mission of Wrexham Football Club. Ryan, publicly and perhaps strategically, maintained a carefully constructed facade of unwavering Wrexham unity, diligently continuing to disseminate cheerful, upbeat updates about the club's progress, enthusiastically praising the unwavering support of the passionate Wrexham community, and projecting an outward image of serene obliviousness to the gathering storm clouds that were amassing ominously on the horizon. However, behind this meticulously crafted social media performance and the carefully orchestrated public pronouncements of business as usual, alarm bells were ringing with increasing urgency within the Wrexham boardroom. Board members, legally and ethically entrusted with the paramount responsibility of safeguarding the club's long-term financial stability, protecting its hard-earned reputation, and preserving its deeply cherished community values, began to initiate a discreet yet increasingly thorough internal investigation into the swirling allegations and the potential ramifications for the club's future trajectory. What they reportedly unearthed during this confidential inquiry sent shockwaves of profound unease and escalating concern throughout the club's leadership structure. Confidential documents, internal communications, and potentially even legally sensitive material surfaced, strongly suggesting a discernible pattern of behavior wherein Ryan Reynolds may have been actively and perhaps imprudently leveraging his co-ownership role and the resources of Wrexham Football Club as a strategic instrument to assist Blake in proactively managing the rapidly escalating fallout from her increasingly controversial film project, actions that were increasingly perceived as demonstrably misaligned with the fundamental best interests of Wrexham Football Club, its loyal fan base, and its long-term sustainability. The precise nature and specific details of these alleged actions remained initially intentionally vague, shrouded in layers of corporate confidentiality, legal sensitivities, and a palpable desire to avoid further public conflagration, but the overarching implication was chillingly clear. Ryan Reynolds, the Hollywood hero who had seemingly ridden to Wrexham's rescue, was now suspected of potentially compromising the very club he had vowed to protect, blurring the already precarious lines between personal drama, celebrity ego, and the sacred trust placed in him by a community that had wholeheartedly embraced him as one of their own. The internal tension within Wrexham AFC, simmering beneath the surface for weeks, reached a critical, unsustainable breaking point, culminating in a seismic event that few within the footballing world, or indeed the global entertainment industry, could have realistically anticipated. After weeks of hushed, increasingly fraught internal deliberations, clandestine board meetings held behind closed doors, and a palpable atmosphere of mounting anxiety and uncertainty permeating the club's administrative offices, Wrexham Football Club released a formal public statement that detonated with the force of a carefully placed explosive charge across the global media landscape. The announcement, stark, concise, and utterly devoid of celebratory fanfare, unequivocally declared Ryan Reynolds had been officially and with with immediate effect removed from his position as co-owner of Wrexham Football Club. The official communication, meticulously crafted with painstakingly chosen diplomatic phrasing, consciously devoid of emotionally charged language, cited breaches of trust related to misinformation as the carefully worded, legally defensible primary justification for this drastic and unprecedented action. The club's formal statement, while undeniably pointed and deeply consequential, deliberately and conspicuously refrained from directly referencing Blake Lively or Justin Baldoni by name, maintaining a carefully constructed veneer of corporate neutrality and legal prudence, likely aimed at mitigating potential legal repercussions and further escalating the already volatile public relations crisis. However, for seasoned industry analysts, veteran media commentators, and anyone even possessing a cursory understanding of the rapidly unfolding saga, the underlying connection, the unspoken link between Ryan's dramatic ousting and the cascading controversies surrounding Blake Lively's troubled film project was not merely discernible, it was glaringly, unmistakably, and damningly clear. The fairy tale partnership, once universally lauded as a shining beacon of Hollywood charm, authentic community engagement, and genuine cross-cultural collaboration, had imploded with breathtaking speed and devastating finality, leaving behind a smoldering wreckage of shattered trust, irrevocably tarnished illusions, and a proud Welsh football club suddenly thrust into the unenviable position of grappling with the widespread fallout of a very public, intensely embarrassing, and potentially long-lasting scandal. The once cherished dream of Hollywood-infused harmony in the valleys of North Wales had morphed with shocking rapidity into a stark and sobering cautionary tale, brutally exposing the inherent vulnerabilities of celebrity-driven ventures, the potential for personal drama and unchecked ambition to overshadow even the most altruistic intentions, and the profoundly damaging consequences when the glittering, often illusory world of Hollywood collides with the deeply rooted values and fiercely protected traditions of a small, tightly knit community. In the deafening silence that followed the bombshell announcement of Ryan Reynolds' expulsion from Wrexham AFC, the carefully constructed dam of secrecy surrounding the scandal fractured completely, unleashing a torrent of previously suppressed information, unverified allegations, and deeply damaging leaks into the voracious maw of the global media. Details once cautiously whispered within hushed industry circles and cautiously alluded to in veiled online forums now surged into the public domain with unrestrained velocity, painting an even more unflattering, ethically compromised, and potentially legally precarious picture of the events that had precipitated Ryan's downfall. Whistleblowers, emboldened by the official, albeit vaguely worded acknowledgement of serious wrongdoing on the part of the club's leadership, reportedly emerged from the shadows, offering corroborating testimony and further incriminating evidence to journalists and investigative reporters, substantiating pre-existing allegations that Blake Lively had indeed exerted significant and arguably inappropriate pressure on Ryan to strategically leverage his Wrexham platform and the club's considerable public relations apparatus as a calculated means of aggressively managing the relentlessly negative press cycle engulfing "It Ends With Us." The most explosively damaging revelation to surface from this deluge of leaked information was the increasingly credible claim that Ryan had been explicitly and repeatedly instructed, perhaps even coerced, into offering exclusive, highly coveted interviews and behind-the-scenes access to specific pre-selected media outlets, allegedly as part of a formalized quid pro quo arrangement meticulously designed to secure favorable, damage control-oriented coverage for Blake Lively and deflect critical scrutiny away from the escalating on-set controversies and the increasingly negative critical reception anticipated for her film. Rob McElhenney, now tragically and somewhat ironically positioned as the sole remaining high-profile figurehead of the once vaunted Wrexham ownership duo, found himself abruptly and unceremoniously thrust into an utterly unenviable, near impossible situation, forced to navigate a raging maelstrom of incandescent fan anger, increasingly intrusive board scrutiny, and a relentless 24/7 media frenzy that threatened to completely consume the club and obliterate the hard-won goodwill they had so painstakingly cultivated. Fan reactions predictably were as diverse and volatile as they were overwhelmingly negative, ranging from profound, heartbroken disbelief and a palpable sense of collective betrayal, bordering on grief to outright incandescent fury and impassioned demands for full accountability, transparent disclosure, and meaningful restorative justice for the perceived wrongs inflicted upon the club and its loyal supporters. Some feeling profoundly misled and emotionally manipulated by the carefully constructed Hollywood narrative, engaged in symbolic acts of public disillusionment, most notably the highly publicized burning of replicas of the now tainted Wrexham shirts that Ryan Reynolds had so effectively and perhaps cynically popularized, visually potent expressions of a deep-seated sense of betrayal and shattered trust. Others, clinging desperately to fading memories of Ryan's initial, seemingly genuine enthusiasm and the undeniable positive changes he had demonstrably facilitated within the club's infrastructure and community engagement initiatives, desperately attempted to rationalize the unfolding scandal, clinging to a rapidly diminishing hope that the entire affair was a gross exaggeration, a sensationalized media fabrication, or a simple misunderstanding blown wildly out of proportion. Regardless of the spectrum of individual fan reactions, the undeniable, inescapable reality was that the unique synergy, the almost alchemical dynamic that had so effectively defined the Ryan-Rob partnership and so irresistibly captivated the global Wrexham community was irrevocably, perhaps terminally, shattered, replaced by a lingering, pervasive sense of unease, a bitter aftertaste of Hollywood scandal, and the gnawing realization that the once pristine image of Wrexham AFC had been indelibly tarnished, its hard-earned reputation potentially irreparably damaged by the reckless actions and self-serving agendas of those who had been entrusted with its care and stewardship. Ryan Reynolds' ignominious forced departure from Wrexham AFC irrevocably marks one of the most jarring, deeply disillusioning, and utterly unexpected episodes in the annals of modern sports history, serving as a stark and profoundly unsettling illustration of the breathtaking speed with which meticulously constructed public personas can catastrophically crumble, and the potentially devastating consequences when unchecked personal ambition and the seductive allure of celebrity influence collide head-on with the deeply held communal passions and fiercely protected traditions of a close-knit community. This is not merely a salacious tabloid tale of celebrity missteps and PR blunders. It transcends the ephemeral realm of entertainment gossip, evolving into a stark and sobering cautionary narrative about the inherently corrosive power of unchecked influence, the insidious nature of self-serving ambition, and the alarmingly fragile boundaries that often separate the carefully curated world of celebrity from the messy, unpredictable realities of authentic human connection and shared community values. The scandal, with its intricate roots deeply embedded in the vehemently contested accounts surrounding Blake Lively's critically embattled film project, brutally exposes the terrifying velocity and destructive ferocity with which personal controversies, amplified by the relentless echo chambers of social media and relentlessly fueled by the insatiable demands of celebrity culture, can metastasize, rapidly infecting and ultimately fatally undermining even the most ostensibly well-intentioned ventures and the most carefully cultivated public images. Whether the complete, unvarnished truth behind the Wrexham saga, with all its morally ambiguous nuances and ethically compromised decisions, will ever fully and transparently surface into the unforgiving glare of the public spotlight remains, at best, a highly improbable prospect. The complex web of legal entanglements, the ironclad walls of non-disclosure agreements, and the inherent opacity and self-protective mechanisms of Hollywood's tightly controlled inner workings may perpetually shroud the finer, most incriminating details in a veil of carefully constructed ambiguity and strategically deployed obfuscation. However, the profound and multifaceted damage already inflicted is both undeniable and demonstrably extensive. A once harmonious and seemingly unbreakable ownership team is now irrevocably fractured. The deeply ingrained trust of a fiercely loyal community has been profoundly and perhaps irreparably shaken to its core, and an actress's carefully constructed professional credibility and public persona have been subjected to withering public scrutiny and sustained, potentially career-altering reputational damage. As Wrexham AFC bravely attempts to navigate the treacherous, uncharted waters of its uncertain future, the inevitable conversations, both within the club and amongst its global fan base, will undoubtedly and understandably refocus on the familiar, comforting rhythms of the football pitch, the quantifiable metrics of on-field performance, the strategic imperatives of team building, and the enduring, unifying power of shared athletic endeavor. Yet, the indelible memory of this deeply unsettling controversy, the lingering, pervasive shadow of Hollywood scandal, will, in all likelihood, forevermore remain an unwelcome yet unavoidable part of Wrexham AFC's rich and complex lore, a stark and perpetual perpetually relevant reminder of the inherent risks and unforeseen consequences when the glittering, often illusory allure of celebrity ambition inextricably collides with the deeply rooted passions, fiercely guarded traditions, and unwavering communal spirit of a small, tightly knit town, and when the pursuit of private agendas, however well-intentioned, ultimately clashes with the sacrosanct sanctity of shared communal dreams. Perhaps if any faint glimmer of a silver lining can be extracted from this otherwise tumultuous and deeply disappointing affair, it resides in the demonstrably unwavering resilience of the Wrexham community itself, their remarkable capacity for collective self-preservation, their unwavering determination to band together in the face of adversity, to weather the bitter storm of disillusionment and public embarrassment, and to ultimately emerge, perhaps bruised, undeniably wiser, but certainly not broken, stronger and more unified than ever before in their unwavering, enduring commitment to their beloved club, their shared heritage, and the enduring spirit of Wrexham AFC. As for Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, their individual and collective next moves, both within the fiercely competitive arenas of their respective professional careers, and within the intensely scrutinized sphere of their heavily publicized personal lives, will undoubtedly be observed, analyzed, and dissected with an unprecedented level of global intensity and microscopic scrutiny, forever filtered through the prism of a scandal that few, if any, of their legions of devoted fans ever remotely anticipated, and even fewer could have possibly imagined would unravel with such breathtaking speed and devastating consequences.